Doom v Vamos v Vamos Epicureans. This is the BCE Comics Pod one-shot edition. I'm your host, Nick Smith, and I'm joined by...
Stojr from Stojr's Shelf. How's it going, Nick?
Doing well. Crossing my fingers that we are past the recording camera issues that we had when we live streamed Daredevil. Gosh, I'm still so disappointed by that. Made some fixes on my end, and this is our test to see if it goes smoothly. All right.
Yeah, no, hopefully it does. You know, all of the cool things that you were showing everybody. You had all those figurines, all those like drawings that you did, and
Right.
everybody lost all that stuff.
I mean, in some ways, maybe it's a blessing because I did have to take off my shirt to emulate Wolverine at one point, and I don't think the internet is ready for that yet.
Which is really odd because we were doing a Daredevil recap, and I just went with it. But hey, what are you gonna do?
I figured I'd give the audience the experience of what it would be like to actually go blind, right? Anyway. All right, obviously we're getting absurd. So we are participating in Kurtis Findlay's Epic Marvel Podcast Reading Club, and this one shot is going to be our brief thoughts on today's issue, which is Uncanny X Men number 166, Live Free or Die, brought to you by the state of New Hampshire. All right, so in this double-sized issue, we learn that Storm avoided turning into one of the Brood by essentially mind-melding with a sacred space cow. Space whale. The X-Men then decide to dedicate their remaining time to destroying the soul of the last sacred space whale that the Brood had captured, because that will somehow let the other space whales go free. So they go to the Brood home world, they find the elder sacred space whale, and then via celestial cetacean magic, the Brood are purged from all of the X-Men, the Brood Queen is killed, and the Brood home world is destroyed. Stojr, is this what tripping on acid feels like?
I mean, it's not as bad as going to like the cat dimension or whatever we've done in some of the other podcasts. But yeah, the logic behind how this all falls out is pretty silly.
Now, mind you, I didn't mind it. I did kind of like this issue, but boy, there's just a lot. It's just so weird. Like, even for comics, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, look, the plot elements of how they solve the problem are completely bonkers and weird. And I can feel little flavors of like Avatar with like, some of the types of things of like, melding with different creatures or being with nature and things like that. So it's not plot points that are, not at least tangentially touched upon in other media. But that part of it's silly. Everything else is really strong. I mean, the Paul Smith art is, for me, hitting on all cylinders. Mm-hmm. And actually, somebody in Curtis's Discord mentioned that Paul's only on this title for like 10 or 11 issues, which surprised me. I had to like kind of go count them up because I feel like he's on here forever. This is such that quintessential X-Men early 80s art that I think of. You got Carol in the beginning of this issue doing her best Endgame impression 30 years before Endgame, where she's just completely obliterating as binary the Brood, and really showing how powerful she is, and that's really cool to look at. The Storm body being regenerated in the cheek of the space whale, is creepy. I'll give it that. Even if I'm going to try and avoid the plot points that are going on here because they're a bit silly. I really enjoy the subplot with Cyclops and Wolverine and how, Cyclops is just acting more and more aggressive until you get to that reveal towards the end of the issue. I think that's, is really well written because, if you don't fast forward through the issue, you may not see that coming. Right? That they're all kind of being taken over, but nobody else is kind of acting increasingly aggressive like Cyclops is. And you get your first appearance of Lockheed, which is the Lockheed the Dragon, which is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, this issue has a ton of cool stuff. You're left on a cliffhanger where they have to go back and deal with Professor X, and really no clear way of how to deal with Professor X, because they just got magically cured by the space whale thing, and none of that stuff is here. So what did you think?
Yeah, well, aside from my flippancy, I did like the cosmic world building. I just wish it had a little more room to breathe. As it is, just contained within this, it felt like Claremont was twisting ideas into a pretzel in order to make it work. And of course, my stupid ass tongue can't distinguish each piece of salt, right? That's a callback to the Daredevil, our unfortunate Daredevil episode. But yeah, I mean the art is strong. It's a visual treat, but it's just so convoluted. I wish there was more time. I wish we could have learned a little more about these space whales. And I know we learned a little bit, but it's just, yeah, let it breathe a little bit more.
And I'm sure they get revisited at some point. I mean, the X-Men have been around for, another 40 years after this, 45 years after this. But I can't remember space whales anywhere else. Like I said, I'm sure it happened. I'm sure they've encountered them again. But it's not like they revisit this plot often enough that I could tell you what era or what volume of X-Men they've encountered the space whales again. So they haven't really revisited that. The Brood have come back and reared their ugly alien's head, but not the space whales to my knowledge.
Yeah. Well, opportunity for modern writers and artists of X-Men, right? Bring back the space whales.
I mean, if I had to guess, like actually speaking of modern, like there's a Jean Grey series that wrapped up recently, and she was in space the whole time. So if there's a spot where they might have popped their heads up even as a cameo, it might have been in that one. I wasn't reading it, so
yeah, I have no idea. All right, well, any other thoughts, Stojr?
Nope. I think I'm looking forward to the next issue where we get the New Mutants.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, if you guys have enjoyed our thoughts, follow us on YouTube. We're going to read, rate, and review big collected editions at least once a month, plus these one-shots coming out every day. We've got a new poll out for what we're going to read for April, so go ahead and check that out if you get the option. All right, thanks very much, guys. We'll see you next time.
Later.